Hey guys, this is Lala Legacy and welcome back to another episode of SeaBed. So, let's just jump right back in. It says almost 2 years ago. The date on the back of his resume was the start of the previous year, so it made sense to assume he started coming to the office within the following year. I waited for her next words. According to your memories, Sachiko disappeared last year, right? Yes. In any case, I asked our other employee about it, and she remembered Sachiko. Fumi has been working with us since we established the place. I see. And it has been 4 years since then, right? Which makes it... Nagasaki moved the books from the table, pulled out a brown printer paper from the drawer, and drew an axis of time on it. Ah. If your junior employee is correct, then Sachiko disappeared sometime during this period. Nagasaki pointed at the line marking 4 to 2 years ago. If you are correct, then she disappeared sometime during this period. Next, she pointed at the period of time from 2 years ago all the way to the present day. We have to figure this out first. I felt like my thoughts would grow sluggish whenever I tried to think about it. Can you remember exactly what had happened from your perspective? Yes, it was last autumn. I felt like I'd been swimming in a pool when the water suddenly turned into mud. My thoughts simply wouldn't progress from A to B. We went on a trip like we always do. She suddenly disappeared in the middle of it. I managed to force that out at least. If you're not feeling well, you don't need to overdo it. But can you try remembering any details about her disappearance? I tried to recall her trip. We were walking down a stone pavement, surrounded by buildings made from red brick. Sachiko was saying something with her gaze fixed on the pamphlet map. But it was as though she were somewhere far away, and I couldn't make out her voice at all. The scenery itself began to distort and eventually dispersed. Okay? Sachi. I heard Nagasaki's voice. Do you feel sick? No, I'm okay. Oh, that was a little weird. Okay, whatever, game. But it's like a part of my memories is still covered by fog. I can't recall a thing. I see. But why? Why would I forget something that important? Sometimes you forget things precisely because they're important. Nagasaki considered me for a few long moments, then turned back to her desk and began filling out her medical chart. Is there anything else you'd like to tell me? I think this is all. You haven't told me about the ringing in your ears of late. Did it stop? Nagasaki asked me about my anxiety-induced acoustic hyperesthesia. Hyperesthesia. I don't know. I tried. It hasn't been happening lately. You sure about that? Nagasaki gave me a scrutinizing look. It didn't completely go away. It still happens with roughly the same frequency, but now it seems like it's ringing somewhere far away. I no longer get the feeling that my eardrums are going to burst like it used to. Nagasaki inhaled a deep breath and responded with a quick, I see, exhaling it. After that, she began silently spinning her pen between her fingers, so I decided to ask her if there was anything she had learned from our conversation. I can make a few educated guesses, but I can't tell anything for sure until I examine you. What do you mean? I need to verify whether your symptoms are caused by physical or psychological factors. She told me that physical factors are usually described as androgynous, or endogenous, I don't know, and psychological ones as psychogenic. Don't judge me, guys! So, you need to separate them, I see. Exactly. Let me go into a bit more detail. There are multiple things that can be the cause for hallucinations, ringing in the ears, and dysmentia, such as drugs, brain damage, or schizophrenia. The treatment for any of these differs completely, so I first need to elucidate the cause. I see. I think I got it. I nodded, to which Nagasaki responded with a nod of her own. In that case, I'd like to go in a bit more detail. Do you still have time today? I checked my watch, and said that I did. And I'll try to investigate the timing of Takako's disappearance on my end as well. Good. Nagasaki took out the stethoscope from one of her drawers and used it to inspect my body for any unusual sounds. Are you getting enough sleep every night? I make sure to sleep at least 6 hours a night, no matter how busy I am. I only had to take off my shirt, but it was still kind of embarrassing to be seen like this by an actual acquaintance. You don't drink periodically, do you? I only ever drink at social gatherings. Have you been to any doctors for any other conditions recently? Not that I can think of. You can put your shirt back on. Nagasaki put the stethoscope away. After that, she made me take a written test. It was really easy. I had to do simple addition, write down today's date, and draw geometrical forms that were given to me, among other things. As I finished the test with little hassle, Nagasaki asked me if I wanted to take a blood test, just in case. A blood test? You're gonna draw blood from me? Seeing how I wasn't as scared of needles as Takako, I agreed to the blood test, hoping that it might help. Don't worry, I won't be able to read your memories from this or anything, said Nagasaki with a smile as she drew my blood. If it helped solve this, I wouldn't even mind. The procedure came to an end as I was trying to look away. Rather than pain, what I felt was more akin to my veins being lightly prodded by a finger. It appeared that Nagasaki was good at drawing blood. After discarding the needle, she placed my blood on a silver rack. I made a brief sigh, prompting Nagasaki to ask me if anything was wrong. I was seeing hallucinations, hearing sounds, and to top it all off, I apparently had memory problems as well. If that wasn't enough to get one depressed, I didn't know what was. I was thinking about how my mind wasn't as strong as I thought it was. Nagasaki made one of her unique chuckles, exhaling the air in a single breath. Oh, what's so funny? I gave her an indignant look. You don't look that distraught, that's all. What makes you say that? I mean, if a sigh is the extent of your reaction, I might not be good at conveying it, but I'm genuinely worried, okay? It shows that you're still feeling fine enough to maintain a calm exterior. On top of that, you're trying to face this problem with a cool head. Most mental patients aren't aware of their problems and only end up visiting a professional due to peer pressure. Compared to that, you not only recognize that something is off with what you're experiencing, but are trying to figure it out yourself through intellectual reasoning. In short, you're both tough and possess an open and flexible mind. Can't say that makes me feel much better. Well, you being this self-aware makes my job a lot easier at least, Nagasaki added with a smile. I hope you're treating this seriously. You shouldn't overthink things like that. I gave her a serious look, but she responded with her usual laid-back expression as if nothing of importance had happened. I could see a rectangular patch of light on her shoulder that filtered in through the small window behind her. Noticing my gaze, Nagasaki looked at the window herself. The sound of rain abated, and now the faint, window-shaped patch of light extended across the floor. Well, we've finished the blood test and all, so I guess we might as well have a sip of some coffee. Nagasaki stood up and left the consultation room. As I killed time absent-mindedly gazing at the picture stuck to the corkboard on her desk, Nagasaki returned with 2 cups of coffee in hand. She placed one in front of me and kept the other in her hands as she sat down. With her left hand freed, she put it in her pocket of the white coat while using the right to take sips from her cup. I reached out to my cup as well. "Did that help you calm down a little?" Nagasaki posed that question at me as I had finished about half of my coffee. "A little. I don't think we solved much of anything yet, though." Oh, whoops. That was Sachiko, sorry. With these kinds of problems, just confiding in someone can help a lot. One's frame of mind is all that matters, she added. I had to admit, it made me feel better that she was acting so confident. I suppose I do feel a little stressed, or a little less stressed now. Nagasaki grinned. What are we going to do from now on? Well, for starters, I heard you out. Now, I'll have to look through the results of your examination to be able to tell exactly what's going on and what the causes are. Then I could come up with the best solution for you. She would make it clear what the problem was before tackling it head on. I'll take care of the complicated stuff, so you should just relax and give me some time. Alright. As I've told you, if you come here, I'll see this thing through to the end, or at least until you're satisfied. Okay. Don't worry about it too much for now. As our appointment drew to a close, Nagasaki told me that this was just a preliminary check. After deciding on the time for my next visit and indulging in some small talk, I left the clinic. The sun shone brightly in the sky as I left the clinic. I wouldn't have been surprised to see a rainbow as well. I didn't dislike the smell of wet asphalt. I looked at the taxi parked in front of the pharmacy, but quickly averted my gaze before the driver could make eye contact. Another taxi drove to the clinic. I wasn't really knowledgeable about this area, but I felt that my office shouldn't have been that far from it. After thinking for a few moments, I decided to go on foot. As I expected, after moving north a few blocks, I found myself on a familiar street. Relieved, I continued walking, thinking back to my conversation with Nagasaki. Hallucinations, ringing in the ears, and dysmesia did sound pretty depressing. However, as Nagasaki said, I didn't feel that anxious or confused about it. At least you're self-aware, I recall what she told me. I'd say it's pretty important to get the full picture. I realized I had walked into a shadow. Raising my face, I stopped just a moment before bumping into a street sign. The last time I actually hit a street sign with my face was still in elementary school. Sachiko, however, kept telling me how it was a bad habit of mine to completely lose sight of my surroundings when I had something on my mind. I realized I was standing in front of a library. I checked my wristwatch. I still had time before work. Psychology was in a different section from medicine, so it was a pain to find it. However, before I could spot an idling library worker, I found myself in front of a shelf with these kinds of books. I randomly picked one up and opened it. It seemed to be a dictionary dealing with the terms of clinical psychology. I read through a few random pages until my eyes stopped on something. Catharsis. A method of treatment that makes repressed memories resurface in order to avoid an explosive buildup. Making repressed memories resurface. According to the definition I was aware of, the word referred to the purification of emotions. However, in the context of psychology, it also seemed related to what Nagasaki was talking about, understanding the whole picture. I closed the book and considered the shelf again. In the end, I chose 2 books and brought them to the counter. As I left the psychology section, I stopped, wondering if I should perhaps borrow some other books, mostly for recreational reading. The librarian behind the counter noticed me lingering about. Aw, she's cute. Over here, please. The librarian was a woman of short stature, whose head barely reached up to my shoulders. I checked the floor behind the counter. It was the same height as the floor on my side. Do you happen to have a membership card? She addressed me in a slightly high-pitched tone. No. Is this your first time visiting? Yes. I'll prepare a card for you then. Can you fill out this form here? She placed a piece of paper and a pen in front of me. I wrote down my name and contact information. How long will this take? I handed her the form and glanced at the clock on the counter. Just a few minutes. Her reply was quick and curt. I wish she was more specific, but I nodded and decided to wait. I placed 3 books on the counter and the librarian scanned their covers with the barcode reader. I heard 3 beeps. She picked up the card that came out of a machine beyond the counter, gave it a final check, and handed it to me. Here you go, your library card. It really didn't take long. I picked it up with my 3 books. The sun was starting to set as I left the library. This time, I headed straight for the office, but as it was slightly farther than I had expected, I ended up arriving late. Should have taken that taxi after all. The hour arm of the clock above the entrance was pointing at the number 5 when I finally reached the office building. As I began ascending the staircase, I heard the footsteps of someone coming down. Oh, Inukai, hello. On your way home? Hello. I'm leaving on time today. What about Fumi? She's still in the office. She said she wanted to talk to you about something. I see. Well, I'll be going then. Alright, see you tomorrow. I reached the floor where our office was located, continued down the corridor, and stopped in front of the door. As if jolted by static electricity, my hand suddenly stopped right before touching the doorknob, but I simply shook my head and stepped inside. I'm back. Oh, hey there! Fumi replied right away. I turned toward the direction of her voice and saw her busily writing something at her desk. There was no one else in the office. Fumi was the only one present. I walked to the whiteboard, turned my magnet upside down, and erased the brief note detailing the reason for my absence. It says here that Inukai is still in the office. He forgot his magnet again. I'll have a chat with him tomorrow. I turned Inukai's magnet upside down. According to this, Fumi and I were in the office, while Inukai and Anne were gone. As I returned to my desk, I spotted some new papers in my document tray. I've taken care of the receipt applications, so I left the bills in your tray. I see, thanks. I turned on my PC, prompting lines of letters to appear on the black background of the monitor. I stood up and looked through the rest of the papers as my machine booted up. A few drafts of the commissions I placed in the tray myself, attendance records, and year-end vacation applications. Does the schedule work for you? They had extra days off at the end of the year, but fewer days at the beginning. We had fewer offers next year, so I had to agree to some extra challenging jobs. Yes, and no problems on my end. Fumi straightened her back as she turned around to answer. I mean, all that's changed is that our vacation starts earlier. You visit your family home during the holidays, right? I imagine you might not be able to meet everyone if vacation times keep shifting. I don't have anyone special that I'd be dying to meet anyway. Don't make me say it out loud, jeez! She then changed the topic by complaining about how it was cold in the office. I'm sorry. If you can finish your current commission early, you're free to start your vacation right then. My, that sounds like an awfully attractive proposal. The opposite holds true as well, though. Should have known. I'll do my best. I copied the important parts from the paper into my computer once it finished booting up. I opened the schedule file and entered Fumi and Inakai's schedules. Okay. I was actually kind of surprised to see Takako there. Yeah, so that is all the time that I have for this episode, guys. If you liked it, please give it a big thumbs up down below and comment down below too. If you haven't already subscribed, by subscribing you're becoming part of a legacy. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!